Just before midnight on April 14, 1912, the largest and most luxurious passenger ship ever built sliced through the icy waters of the North Atlantic. On board were more than 2,200 passengers and crew, many believing they were traveling on the safest ship in the world. Then a dark shape appeared ahead. Within seconds, the RMS Titanic struck an iceberg. What seemed like a minor collision would trigger one of history's most infamous maritime disasters. Less than 3 hours later, the unsinkable ship had disappeared beneath the freezing Atlantic, taking more than 1,500 lives with it. But was the iceberg truly the only reason Titanic was lost? The story of the Titanic began long before it ever touched the water. At the start of the 20th century, competition between transatlantic shipping companies was fierce. Every company wanted to build larger, faster, and more luxurious ocean liners. White Star Line chose a different strategy. Instead of chasing speed records, it decided to build ships that offered unmatched comfort and elegance. The result was the Olympic-class liners, and among them, Titanic was the crown jewel. Stretching nearly 269 meters, or 882 feet in length, Titanic was one of the largest moving objects ever built by humans. It featured grand staircases, luxurious dining rooms, electric elevators, heated swimming pools, Turkish baths, and accommodations that rivaled the finest hotels in Europe. To many people, it represented the peak of modern engineering. Although the company never officially claimed Titanic was unsinkable, newspapers and public opinion quickly embraced that description because of its advanced safety features, including 16 watertight compartments designed to keep the ship afloat even after serious damage. On April 10, 1912, Titanic departed Southampton, England, carrying more than 2,200 passengers and crew. It stopped briefly in Cherbourg, France, and Queenstown, Ireland, before beginning its journey across the North Atlantic toward New York City. The voyage began smoothly. Passengers enjoyed elegant dinners, live music, and breathtaking views of the endless ocean. In first class, some of the wealthiest people in the world relaxed in luxury, while thousands of immigrants in third class dreamed of new lives in America. For 4 days, everything appeared normal. Meanwhile, wireless radio operators received several messages from nearby ships warning of dangerous ice fields and drifting icebergs along Titanic's planned route. Some warnings reached the bridge. Others were delayed or never delivered because the wireless operators were overwhelmed transmitting passengers' personal messages. Captain Edward Smith slightly adjusted course, but chose to maintain nearly full speed. Like many experienced captains of the era, he believed the ship could safely navigate through the area before reaching the densest ice. The sea that night was unusually calm. There were no waves breaking against the icebergs, making them much harder to spot. The moonless sky made the horizon almost invisible. At 11:40 p.m. on April 14th, lookouts Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee suddenly noticed a dark shape directly ahead. "Iceberg right ahead!" The warning bell rang 3 times. On the bridge, First Officer William Murdoch reacted immediately. He ordered the helm hard to starboard and instructed the engine room to stop and reverse the engines. The enormous ship began turning. But it was too late. The iceberg scraped along Titanic's starboard side. From the perspective of many passengers, the collision seemed surprisingly gentle. Some barely noticed it. Others felt only a slight vibration beneath their feet. Inside the hull, however, disaster had already begun. The iceberg tore open several sections below the waterline. Instead of one massive hole, the impact created a series of narrow openings stretching across multiple watertight compartments. Water rushed into the ship at an unstoppable rate. Chief designer Thomas Andrews quickly inspected the damage. His conclusion was devastating. Titanic could remain afloat with 4 flooded compartments. 6 compartments were already filling with water. The ship had less than 3 hours before it would sink. Captain Smith struggled to accept the reality. The impossible had happened. Orders were given to prepare the lifeboats. But another problem soon became painfully clear. Titanic carried lifeboats for only about half the people on board. At the time, the number complied with outdated maritime regulations based on the ship's tonnage rather than its passenger capacity. Many passengers refused. By the time the rescue ship RMS Carpathia reached the scene, the North Atlantic had fallen eerily silent. Of the more than 2,200 people aboard Titanic, approximately 1,500 lost their lives, making it one of the deadliest peacetime maritime disasters in history. The sinking shocked the world. Newspapers carried heartbreaking stories of families separated forever, acts of extraordinary courage, and the devastating consequences of overconfidence. Public investigations in both the United States and the United Kingdom uncovered a series of contributing factors: excessive speed in an ice field, insufficient lifeboats, missed iceberg warnings, and communication failures between nearby ships. The disaster transformed maritime safety forever. International regulations were strengthened, lifeboat capacity became mandatory for everyone on board, continuous 24-hour radio watches were introduced, and the International Ice Patrol was established to monitor iceberg hazards in the North Atlantic. More than a century later, Titanic remains far more than a famous shipwreck. It is a timeless reminder that even the great